Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Easter and welcome to Courage Conversations. I'm so excited to have you joining us tonight. We are here every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So make sure that you tune in every week or catch the replays, which you can find on social media after the show is over, or pop on over to our website, courage365.org/videos, and you could find the back play episodes of all of season 1 and any of the episodes moving forward for season 2. So I'm really excited to share something with you today because Maureen Garcia, who you heard from last week, she is a new board member of Courage 365, and she is actually helping to co-produce the Courage Conversation show. And tonight, she is going to be a co-host. She's going to be leading the conversation. And so I'm super excited. She's got a lot of great questions planned. And then I'll introduce our guest in just 1 minute. Hey, Maureen, how are you doing? Are you ready for our show tonight?
I am very ready for our show tonight. I'm excited.
Me too. I cannot wait. You've got some great questions planned. And now I just want to bring on our guest for tonight, which is Julie Ann Smith. Hey, Julie Ann, how are you?
Hey, Ashley. Hey, Maureen.
Hi.
I'm doing great. Thank you.
I'm just going to move you on over to this side here. It is so good to have you, Julianne. And our topic tonight is really about Josh Duggar going to jail. And we thought that you would be the perfect person to talk to about this because you've been covering the Duggar case for quite a while now. And you have a blog called Spiritual Sounding Board where you have talked about abuse in the Christian church for many years. You have helped survivors bring their stories forward in ways that were empowering to them. You've been a long-time advocate, and you really have some great insights onto this issue. And you've also been at the Courage Conference before. You've been to our conference, and you were on one of the panels, two of the conferences. You're right.
Yep.
You're on one of the panels. Weren't you two on a panel together? Is that right?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. So you're. This is just going to be a great conversation. It's going to feel like a reunion. But yeah, I would love for you, Maureen, to just kind of take it away. Like I said, you've got some great questions planned. Super excited to have you here, Julianne. And let's get started, everyone.
Great. All right. So, Julianne, can you give us an overview of what's going on with Josh Duggar and, the reason he's been arrested now and the abuse allegations from when he was a teenager going back to 2015? Right?
Yeah. So let me start with right now, and my eyes may be looking up because I'm reading my notes above here. So pardon that. But anyway, it said Josh was arrested for allegedly using the internet to download child sexual abuse material. Some of the material depicts the sexual abuse of children under the age of 12. So according to the release, if convicted, he could face up to 20 years in prison and fines up to $250,000 on each count. His trial is scheduled for July 6th, so it's coming up. But going back a ways, in 2015, I'm not sure, I'm not positive that year, but that right around that time, he was allegedly accused of sexually assaulting his sisters. I believe it was 4 sisters, and then one was a babysitter, and so a total of 5. And he admitted to that, but he was never charged. May of 2015, it was discovered that he had subscribed to the Ashley Madison account and paid money. And that was a place where you sign up and then you can have affairs. And of course, these are with adults. But a lot came out in that case. Someone said he really was super violent during that act. And that was really disturbing. Let's see.
I think it's great that you have a timeline. Thank you for keeping track like that, because I'd forgotten about the Ashley Madison situation.
Oh
So
yeah.
thanks for your timeline.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and see, he also confessed to one of his statements said that he was addicted to pornography.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Pornography is one thing, but when you go into the minor area with children, you've crossed the lines big time, and that's really, really serious.
Yeah.
Um, so let's see. There was an investigation that we heard about from Homeland Security in 2019, but it
Mm-hmm.
kind of fizzled out and we didn't hear anything more. So then this incident, this recent arrest in this last week, so that's 2 years later.
Yeah.
And I'm in cybersecurity right now, and I understand cyber forensics, and I believe that what they've been doing is building a case for 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to make it airtight. And I've also understand that when it gets to the federal level, there's usually going to be a 95% conviction rate. So this is really, really serious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Could I ask a question there, Maureen, before you go forward?
Yeah.
I
Sure.
apologize for just interrupting,
Yep.
but is there a difference? I think that there is a difference between like the police arresting him, local police, FBI arresting him, and it was actually Homeland Security. So, like, it feels like a bit more weighty, or at least a different kind of thing than if just the local police or even the FBI had picked him up. Are you aware of that since you're in cybersecurity and this world?
All I know is when government is involved, it usually is a higher level. I don't know the specifics, and so I don't want to answer that. But the way cyber forensics works, if you imagine a how police will take a do not enter, the yellow tape that they place around an area to cordon
Yep.
off. They and essentially that's what they're doing to digital evidence. They are placing an imaginary yellow tape around the evidence, so as not to spoil it in any way. There is a specific process to go through to ensure that that data is exactly the way that it was originally. So it's a very detailed and important process to go through the right way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Um, can you talk a little? Unfortunately, a lot of Christians, and we can talk about why later, but a lot of Christians don't understand that viewing child pornography is itself a criminal act.
Well, yeah, it most certainly is because the child has no choice in
Right.
this. They are a minor, and it's participating in sex
Mm-hmm.
acts. I mean, there may not be physical harm done, but I'm sure that if you talk to anybody who has had that kind of those images pass around,
Yep.
that affects them for their life. You can't when something is on the internet, you can't remove it. It's a permanent. It's permanently there. I mean, you can pay somebody and do different things to just kind of bury it, but
Yeah.
it's permanently there. And so this is a very serious crime.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, were you surprised recently when you learned about his arrest? Were you
No,
surprised that this eventually ended up like this? No. Mhm.
no,
Well, why
not at
not?
all. Well, first of all, in the original case when it came out with his sisters and the I believe it was a babysitter, um,
Hmm.
or at least a friend of the family. When that came out, it wasn't reported appropriately. It was, and when it was reported to a friend who also later was convicted of uh, having child pornography or images of children. So
Yeah.
doesn't it
Mhm.
make sense that this law official wouldn't follow through because he himself was involved in
Right.
this horrible, yeah.
Hmm.
So no, I'm not surprised whatsoever. And also the culture of Bill Gothard. Bill Gothard was highly, highly influential in this family, in the Duggar family. They followed his homeschool curricula. They followed all of his teachings. He was their primary influencer. So And they would follow exactly the way he taught them on how to deal with these kinds of issues. And
Yeah.
um, Bill Gothard has also been accused of sexual abuse, sexually abusing minors. So
Yes. Mhm.
um, I've often said that Bill Gothard wrote the playbook on how to be a pedophile and get away with it.
Yeah.
He
Mhm.
wrote it for himself. He availed himself to that same the same rules and guidelines. He
Mhm.
practiced that himself, and anybody who followed that material um, could easily get away with it.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. And
Nobody's encouraged to go to authorities. Nobody's encouraged to seek mental health help because all of that is, you have to keep it within your family, and they will cover it up with spirituality and say, oh no, we just need to repent and forgive, and but they're not following any normal secular protocol, which says you report to authorities immediately, you get the person in appropriate mental health care for sexual trauma. So,
mhm.
no, I am not surprised whatsoever that we're hearing again. It was never
Yeah.
dealt with the first time. The first time it happened, he was sent away to a work camp.
Mhm.
And so he was getting up at 3 to 5 in the morning, doing laundry, doing manual labor. He had 2 hour Bible studies. This was no place to get real help for sexual deviancy.
Right.
It was no place to get any help for sexual addiction,
Mhm.
pornography, and certainly not, you know, pedophile behavior and things like that. It was just basically a spiritual boot camp. Um,
Right. Mhm.
Spiritual boot camp does not transform lives when you have that kind of mindset.
Yeah. So, um, so Bill Gothard, if I understand correctly, was super influential in Christian homeschooling movement and in creating
Mhm.
curriculum for that, correct? And
Yes.
having camps. And I think I remember you talking when we were on a panel about him being very anti-government,
Hmm.
which would also tie into the whole you don't report to any outside authorities. Um, so yeah, that's a whole mess. And then as far as Josh, when he was a teenager, like a lot of people don't know that it's a very high percentage of pedophiles, child abusers, sexual abuse are in their teen years. And I'm not sure of the exact statistics, but usually teenagers, your brain isn't done developing yet until you're about 25 years old. So there's more hope in getting an abuser to change if you catch them when they're a teenager than there is of getting someone who's like in their 40s or their 50s. So his family and the community really lost out on an opportunity for them to actually help Josh change these behaviors.
Yes.
Um, Now, I know lots of different people from lots of different places sexually abuse others, but can you talk a little bit about why you think Josh was susceptible to becoming abusive in this way? Um, about what he was being
Yeah.
taught about women or about males?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I referred earlier to Bill Gothard as writing the playbook on
Hmm.
how to be a pedophile and get away with it.
Right.
Well, first of all, we have to look at who, what what are women in this culture? Who are they, and how are they valued?
Hmm.
Women are not valued in this culture. They're blamed. They're blamed for the sin, just like Eve. Um, they are blamed for any kind of lust by a man, by what they wear, even their countenance. They're criticized if they don't always smile. They are criticized about where the placement of their jewelry is. If they're
Yes.
wearing a V-neck,
Yep.
um, it, they've got to be wearing dresses, no pants whatsoever.
Mhm.
So and if you are not following the modesty guidelines, then you're going out from under the umbrella. Bill Gothard was famous for
Yeah.
that umbrella
Of
picture,
protection.
that
Yeah.
umbrella, yes, umbrella of protection. God is on top. The man, the father, is beneath God, and then
Yeah.
the woman, the wife, is underneath him, and then the children. And
Yes.
the
Mhm.
umbrella is supposed to keep you safe. So if you went out and you dressed, inappropriately in their eyes, you were going out of the umbrella and you weren't being protected, and you
Right.
were allowing Satan to, um,
Yep.
come
Yeah.
and, influence you.
Yep.
So there was no responsibility placed on guys to control, you know, their eyes and how they viewed women.
Right.
Women were always taught that they were the cause of any kind of men stumbling sexually.
Yeah.
So, a pedophile or a sexual, somebody who wanted to sexually abuse girls or women, you can always blame a woman or a girl for that.
Yeah.
And there was
Convenient.
nothing that she could do. What was that?
I said convenient.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. And, um, it- you know, and it really didn't matter. Even if they were completely covered, they could still say, you caused it.
Mhm.
Whether it was real or imagined,
Yeah.
women were to blame.
Yeah.
Again, when you are in a position, when women are in a position that is lower, there's no way that there is a reasonable discourse about
Yeah.
these topics. They're just not
Mhm.
believed. They're always the one that's going to, cause they're causing deception, or they are the deceivers.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it really is a setup for
Yes.
this kind of, you know, behavior for men to be able to just, she caused it, so there you go. Um,
Yep.
and then another thing is, in that culture, they don't call it abuse.
No.
Um,
Sin.
so what was that? Yeah. Well, yeah, they,
Sin,
they call it sin.
error, mistake, falling into temptation, very
Hmm.
passive language that they used, and they don't think of it as a criminal activity. They think of it as just, something normal that all males experience, which they don't. Not all men have, tendencies to, they just don't. But the thing with talking about that protection, um,
Yeah.
it's if when you believe that, it's as if the moment someone is victimized, then you obviously stepped out from underneath the protection. So you're automatically, the fact that you've been violated is proof to them that you've done
Yes,
something wrong, which
exactly.
is twisted. So speaking of
So
how they view women, what do you think about what's going on with Anna now? A lot of people, Josh's wife, they, they have 6 children together. She's pregnant with the seventh, and a lot of
right.
people on the internet and on social media are talking about how why hasn't she left yet? She needs to leave right now. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what's reality for Anna like right now.
Well, this is a scary place for her right now. I don't know how much she watches the news or, media, but that culture um, would want her to remain there and
Yep.
not, it would be against that culture for her to reach out to any mental health professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it would be, you know, she is expected to forgive him and to restore that relationship, because, divorce would be out of the question. Um, Not only that, like you know, she probably doesn't have any other life skills outside of being a stay-at-home mom, that not that I know of. I mean she has probably a ton of life skills. I don't mean that, but what I'm saying is she doesn't have real outside business skills or professional skills where she could just get up and try to find a job easily.
Mm-hmm.
um
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
there's not a resume gap. There's like no resume
Yeah. She
to
has no
send in.
experience. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right, right. And hey, I was in her shoes. I get it. I had to go back to school to get where I am right now and get my degree. But, and I also had 7 kids. So, it's really, really tough. And in order for her to get out, it's going to have to be a mind shift. And basically, she's going to have to totally dismiss everything that she knows about that culture and that those teachings. It's going to be really, really difficult.
Yeah.
I certainly hope that those who look at her will, just be very compassionate and allow her to come to her own decisions and conclusions, in her own timing. And that's what's going to need to happen for her. She's going to need to have people surround her who love her unconditionally, but she's ultimately going to have to come to these decisions on her own.
Yeah.
And I hope she does.
Yeah. Yeah. She needs support and grace, not
Yeah,
judgment and blame.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. It's really difficult because not only, it's like it is leaving a cult.
yeah.
It is.
hmm
So there's going to be a lot of wrestling in her mind.
hmm
I just hope that the right people are there for her to support her, encourage her.
I wanted
Yeah.
to add something there. I think it's a great question, Maureen, and then Julianne, I loved your answer. I was thinking back to the stuff with the playbook with Bill Gothard
Mhm.
and how there's just, from the way they treat women to, the way that they don't trust government and authorities. And growing up as a stay-at-home daughter, in not exactly the same environment, but some strong similarities.
Mhm.
We were quiverful.
Right.
Um, there were often systems in place, but they were internal systems. And so, like you said, they sent Josh away to that Christian boot camp kind of thing. Well, that didn't help. But then something else I wanted to bring up, just as maybe a point of interest, back when he said that he was addicted to pornography, and we all assumed he was talking about adult pornography, which
hmm
is different than, what he's being accused of right now. But he was actually sent to another ministry to work on his addiction, and it was called, according to People Magazine, Reformers Unanimous International. An
hmm
interesting story. The man who was, or maybe still is, the director of that, Benny Burks, he was a pastor at my church growing up when I was a
Oh,
teen.
wow.
And
hmm
yeah, so he, had like a Reformers Unanimous group, like they did sort of like, they tried to, I think, make it like what is it, AA meetings or something, but it was their own spin on it. And now he's the head of the organization somewhere else. He doesn't live in Virginia anymore, to my knowledge. And it's just from the things that I experienced of him growing up, hearing his sermons and stuff. I could see how that would certainly not be helpful or, stop any type of a porn addiction. If there's debate in the psychology community as to whether that's actually a true characterization of somebody who uses porn.
Right.
Um, but anyway, I wanted to bring that up, that they don't trust government systems, but they will often create the illusion of a system that's there to help. And so people like Anna, what
hmm
probably she's going to be hearing from other people in the community is, hey, we've got somebody to take care of this. We've got somebody to
Right.
fix this, like that's happened multiple times. And I'm hoping that at some point she's like, y'all, none of this stuff has helped.
Right.
Your own systems and, you know, ministries and organizations have done zero. Maybe we need to bring in some professionals. Maybe I could use some professional support. And that, to me, I would hope that would be maybe like a crack of light in there that should be like, huh, this is not working. Maybe we should
Yeah.
try something different.
hmm
Yeah, two things. First of all, I was going to touch on the fact that he was sent away to camp. You notice he was sent away. It's not like he volunteered and he wanted to do this. It was as a result of being caught. So
Yeah.
everybody knows that you're not going to recover, if you're forced to do something. You have to want that desire in yourself and really do that hard work to get to get to a point of recovery.
Yeah.
The second thing, as far as Anna coming to the conclusion that it didn't work, she's also going to have to go over that huge, huge, huge hurdle that mental health is of the devil.
Yeah.
Right? So that is going against everything that she's been taught for years.
Right.
So um, to me, I remember it must have been 2015. I think it was her brother that was reaching out to her and say, "Hey, I got a place for you. You know, if you leave him, we'll take care of you." I sure hope her brother is doing the same thing. You know, he's not involved in Gothard and those teachings, but he
Right.
back then I was going, oh, please, 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 hoping that a brother could have some tug there
Yeah.
and some influence. I just, a lot of times it takes someone to get to the bottom and to the end of their rope. And here she is, pregnant with number 7. That's a
Yep.
lot of kiddos, and they're
Yep.
young, they're, close together in age. I just hope that I hate to see anybody hit that brick wall,
Yeah.
but sometimes that's what it takes to say, this is not working
Yep.
and I need to try something different. And I hope that she can do that and that the right people will come alongside her.
Yeah. She has the right support because it's such a rough place. Such a rough place
It's
to be
very
in.
rough. And
Mm-hmm.
and the church traditionally does not do a good job of helping women
No.
who are in abusive marriages. And I would call this an abusive marriage. That's
Mm-hmm.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she really needs to get some assistance. I don't know their financial situation, if they got money from the Duggar show on TLC or not, but she just definitely needs some really good people just to walk alongside her. This is
Yeah.
going to be a lengthy journey for her.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so when Josh, so in the past, he said, yes, I touched my sisters. Yes, I was part of the Ashley Madison thing. Yes, I have a problem with porn. But this time he's saying not guilty. I didn't do this. Um, and that to me communicates that he has no willingness to accept any of this or to work on any of this, which is a really frightening place um, for people around him, for him to be. Um,
Yeah, that was eye-opening, wasn't it?
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and actually, I don't know if you saw the mug shot. It looked really cocky.
Yeah.
So
He's working, and yeah, yeah.
yeah, it
I
showed him. It showed a smirk, and it was like he was laughing it off.
Yeah,
That's very problematic.
which makes sense because every time he's gotten caught doing anything before, there's been no real consequences. So why not, laugh it off, and
Yeah,
why not,
yeah. It,
Mhm.
sadly, it follows the pattern of these types of people who
Yeah. Yep.
legitimately are pedophiles, and this is
Yes.
really, really sad.
Yes. And that's one of the things that most people don't know. I certainly didn't know it before I found out that my ex-husband had molested children. That there's a pattern, and these
Yeah,
people tend to escalate in their pattern, and they have very specific behaviors that, and they're super deceptive, and that they are very abusive to their family, even if their family aren't the victims that they're choosing to molest. But there's the whole keeping secrets and being deceptive and having a double life, and that's all really abusive because how do you even know what reality is? So for Anna, she's going to have to, like you said, go through everything she's been taught and try to figure out what's real. How can I really get help? How can I protect my children? How can I move forward?
there's that
So
level of denial that is just prevalent in this type of person, and I see it in Josh, sadly. And I was in touch with a pedophile that's in my family this last week, and it was interesting because I was confronting him with what he had done, and he denied it.
of
I mean,
course, Yeah.
And
Mhm. Mhm.
I I just wanted to shake him. I mean, this is by email, so obviously I can't. But are you for real? I wanted to say that. And so this, I see this pattern in pedophiles, and
Yep.
I'm kind of, I'm not kind of, I am seeing that in Josh, in that smirky, cocky look on his face in the mugshot, and then, his plea. That's ridiculous.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, so what do you think needs to happen in order for Christian communities, Christian churches to move forward so that when there are disclosures or allegations of abuse, that we can respond appropriately, legally, and also healthy wise? And how can we prevent this kind of thing from happening in our communities, in our families, in our churches?
Great question. Well, first of all, in this culture, like I mentioned earlier, mental health is viewed as from Satan. So
Yeah.
the church needs to do a better job of understanding mental health and how important it is. These are people trained in these areas, and they know how to help survivors recover. And recovery is a beautiful thing. You ask any survivor.
This is true.
Second
Yeah.
of all, okay, so first of all, when something comes, you know, a suspicion or a question or a report of any kind of sexual abuse, it needs to be reported, period. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need to be investigated by the church or anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You don't talk about it. You don't get your elders together and discuss it. No, you take that survivor, escort that survivor, say, let's go. We're going to the authorities right now. You report it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also need to let other people know in the church, we have a report of sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
If any, you need to open it up to other people and say, this has happened. This report has happened. We don't know guilty or innocent, but this has happened. And because of this, we need to move forward as if it did. Talk
Yeah.
to your
Mhm.
kids. Let's find out if there are any more incidences. And if
Right.
that there are, report it. Again, report it.
Mm-hmm.
Most, I don't know what the statistics are now. I used to know, but many states, pastors are mandatory reporters.
Yep.
And so the law says they need to report these things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think they are all. I think, in fact, in my
No.
state of Washington, it's not, pastors are not mandatory reporters.
Right.
That doesn't matter, though. If you are a pastor
Mhm.
and you are, shepherding your church family, if
Yeah.
this happens, if somebody reports, do the right thing and report it. The, you know, the legal system, they have professionals who know how to investigate. So
Yes.
that is just absolutely essential. And then the church needs to rally around those survivors
Mm-hmm.
and encourage them to get help from being licensed.
Yep.
I'm not talking about counseling, the biblical counselor that may be in their church. I'm not talking about trained to help survivors of sexual abuse.
Right.
Sexual abuse is a totally different area. Biblical counselors, they can talk about, how to handle when somebody lies, how relational issues within a family, things like that. They are
Yeah.
not trained on sexual abuse. That
Right.
requires specialized training from a licensed professional mental health person.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Someone who's trauma informed, somebody who understands abuse dynamics. Me and
Yes.
Ashley talked about last week when we were talking about Ravi Zacharias and the idea that his son Nathan and Margie were trying to look for evidence to show that that Ravi wasn't guilty of what he did. But the problem is, like you said, they're not trained and don't know what to look for, so they can't prove his innocence because they don't know what to look for that would prove even the possibility that he could be the person he's been accused of being. And
Yeah.
with this, churches should not ever try to investigate on their own because you might think you know what to look for, but you really have no idea what to look for. People who are trained to do it know what to look for. And the longer you wait to let them look for it, the more opportunity the abuser or the predator has to get rid of any evidence that would be useful to, bring about a conviction. So,
Well,
um,
they could change the storyline as well. They're
mhm,
a pastor's
mhm,
influence. They can spin it because I think a lot of times what happens is pastors think that, oh, well, if this sexual abuse happened under my watch, then I didn't do a good enough job. The
mhm,
reality is no pastor can control everything, and there is going to be all kinds of sin and illegal activities going on under their watch, but they
right.
just need to do the right thing. Again, they think that it's going to look badly upon them, but actually, the reality is when a pastor reports to authorities what happens, it actually shows the body, the church body, that this is a safer place because
Yes.
they are on top of things, and
Mm-hmm.
they know that they are not equipped to handle it on their own and that somebody else is.
Yeah.
So I think parents would be more secure in a church where a pastor does the right thing rather than
Absolutely.
keep it all in house and try to, get the perpetrator to apologize and repent and all that, because that does no good.
Right. Absolutely. Doesn't do any good at all. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, Julianne. This has been really, really enlightening. And it's just, it's so difficult for people to understand how much depth of information and um, just your experience gives you so much information. Um, and it's so necessary for people in general, Christians in particular, to be open to receiving the kind of stuff that you talk about. The teaching, like playbook kind of thing, and how it kind of trickles down, and what to do when this stuff happens, how to prevent it, and but thank you very much. This was really good.
You're welcome. We have so many resources now. Back when I started in 2012, it wasn't
Mhm,
so prevalent, but we really do have great resources to help churches now. So
mhm.
really, there's no excuse. And we've been covering these abuse stories long enough to know, it just doesn't need to be so messy anymore. We
Right.
have the tools to do it the right way.
Yep. Mhm. Yeah. To prevent it and also to limit the damage when it has happened. Um, yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
To me, it's all about let's let's get everybody, focus on doing things the right way. Life is
Mhm.
too challenging on its own to do it the wrong way and to mess it up and cause more harm. Because
Mhm.
really, when the church does it wrong, then I call that secondary abuse. So
It is.
there's first of all
Mhm.
that initial sexual abuse, but then
Yeah.
the church mishandled it. And, many times what that does is it pulls a rug out from underneath them
Yeah.
spiritually. And then they're left wondering, what in the world just happened? Why didn't my pastor not protect me?
Yep.
So
Mhm.
pastors have to get it right. They need to come alongside, do it the right way so that there's no more harm. We don't need any more secondary abuse by pastors, trying to do it all within their own their own group and their own leadership group.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so, so much, Maureen. It was great being co host on this show tonight. I really enjoyed having you in that role. And of course, Julie Ann, you brought so much wisdom to this conversation. And in talking about resources, we of course want to share our resources at Courage 365 in just a moment. But before we do that, tell people how they can find you and your resources and the things you offer through your blog.
Mhm.
So I'm working full time now, so I don't have a lot of time to blog. But all of my old blog articles are still there, and they're still very relevant. It's at spiritualsoundingboard.com. I'm still
Mhm.
pretty active on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is Defend the Sheep. But feel free to reach out to me. You can find my contact information on my blog or my email and my direct message on Twitter is always open.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you so, so much. And for everybody who is tuning in, we would love for you to also go to our website, courage365.org. And if you're not in a situation where there's imminent danger or there's child sexual abuse known or suspected, in those cases, you should definitely call 911, talk to the police. But in other cases, you can go to courage365.org and click the Need Help tab. And we actually have Julianne's website listed on our resource section on the Need Help tab, along with many other resources that you can get your hands on, from counseling, legal, to supportive blogs and websites, informational stuff. It's all categorized based on different types of survivors who may be looking at the content. We would really welcome you to come and pop on over there. And when you do, we also have a free gift for you. This is our book, 5 Keys to Living a Life of Courage. In it is really some of the first steps you can take as a survivor in your healing journey, your next most courageous steps. That's what we talk about in this free ebook. You can get that just for going to our website. Again, it's courage365.org. And of course, follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter. And when you sign up for this ebook, you'll also get weekly emails just kind of letting you know about the shows coming up and any special events that we have in the future. Everybody, it was so good to have you joining this conversation. I know it was a heavy topic, so make sure you take care of yourself tonight. We will see you next week. Live with courage.